This is the first time I've seen such poor conditions in a university dorm, and it's even at one of China's top universities. The students were told they had to move dorms, and when they saw the new one, they were shocked. The toilets were filthy, the windows were old and broken, and the walls were moldy. On move-in day, they were still painting the walls with industrial paint, but the mold was still there. Now there's a double hazard of formaldehyde and mold. Even the desks and chairs are moldy. This environment is really harmful to the students' health. A lot of them had allergic reactions right after unpacking. Just looking at the pictures, it doesn't even look like a dorm, more like a garbage dump.
These videos show student dormitories at Jinan University in Guangzhou. In July this year, students couldn't tolerate the poor living conditions and decided to expose the situation online. If university dorms are this bad, it's likely the conditions in primary and secondary school dorms are even worse. One video shows a middle school dormitory in Hengshui, Hebei, which looks more like a prisoner of war camp. 12 bunk beds are crammed in a room of less than 20 square meters. The beds are broken and the room is filled with dust. The living conditions are terrible, yet this is where 24 students, all 15 years old, are expected to spend 3 years of their life. The new school year began in September, and the weather was extremely hot. Parents were packed in the room as they accompanied their children. In the video, one parent is heard quietly saying, "In this heat, the kids will be miserable living here." From the video and the parents' reactions, it shows the dorm is overcrowded, and there's no air conditioning. It's hard to imagine how the students will cope with the extreme summer heat. Sadly, this is not an isolated case in China. Another viral video shows Henan Xinyang No. 4 High School turning a classroom into a dorm, filling it with 48 beds for second-year female students. A parent visiting her daughter was shocked by what she saw. 24 bunk beds crammed into a tiny space and placed side by side. It was incredibly crowded. She questioned whether this setup would pose a safety risk. One commentator noted, "This is no different from raising livestock." Another added, "This looks like accommodation under the Geneva Convention for Prisoners of War. It resembles a refugee camp or a large women's prison." The school doesn't treat these students as citizens. If a fire breaks out, they won't be able to escape. The release of these videos caused a public outcry in China. A personal media account called Science and Education Intelligence Station, verified as an education creator, said the situation had a significant impact on parents at the Xinyang No. 4 High School, with many filing complaints through different channels. China's Ministry of Education regulations state that no more than 8 students can share a dorm. A dormitory with 48 students is a serious violation. If an accident happens, the consequences would be unthinkable. The school had even converted restrooms into dorms to meet the 8-student per room requirement. Imagine students sleeping in the room that used to be a bathroom. A commentator remarked, "This school really is pushing the limits." After the incident, the school responded saying, "We're currently renovating the teaching building, and the dorms won't be renovated until next year. There are administrators on site to ensure student safety. Power cuts are enforced at night, and fire safety inspections are conducted regularly." Local education authorities later told the media they had ordered the school to stop using the overcrowded dorms immediately. Students would be moved to nearby apartments until the dorms met the required standards. But there are even more extreme cases of poor dormitory conditions in middle schools. Another video shows a larger dormitory filled with beds stacked 3 layers high. 2 seats of triple bunks are placed side by side in a group. The narrow passageways between them barely allow one person to pass. There seem to be at least 100 beds in the one room, packed tighter than a pigsty. Some older viewers were shocked by the video. They recalled their own school years spent in similar conditions, but even then, there weren't as many students crammed into one room. After so many years, the living conditions for students haven't improved. They've actually gotten worse. Others pointed out that the worst part isn't even the poor dorm conditions. It's the huge gap between the quality of dormitories for international students and local students.
This single dorm room for international students has a carpet, a bathroom, and 24-hour hot water, a single bed, a large fridge, a guitar, a big bookshelf, and even a washing machine. The view is amazing here. They really have it good.
Compared to the conditions shown in previous videos, the single dorm for international students looks almost luxurious. A survey on dormitory comfort among Chinese university students revealed that only 50.9% were satisfied with their accommodations. According to official regulations, undergraduate dorms should house 4 students per room, with an average area of 10 square meters per student, and a minimum of 8 square meters. However, in reality, most Chinese universities pack 6 to 8 students into one room, with very little personal space. Records from Beijing vocational school student accommodations fee standards show that the smallest dorm give each student just 2 to 2.4 square meters. The slightly better dorms provide 2.5 to 2.9 square meters per student. Dorms with over 3 square meters per student are considered the best, and only the best units have bathrooms. From this, it's clear that crammed spaces, lack of privacy, and poor facilities are widespread issues in Chinese university dormitories. Regarding the poor university dorm at the start of the video, Miss Bai, a graduate student from Jinan University School of Economics, told the media that at the end of June, teachers told all students to prepare to move dorms, but didn't tell them where they were going. It wasn't until 8 a.m. on July 13th that they received the building and room numbers. She said the school transported our luggage separately from us, so when we arrived and found the poor conditions, we had no choice but to move in. Some students brought their own formaldehyde testing devices, and the results showed levels far above safety limits. When some students reported this to the department heads, their testing equipment was confiscated. Another student, Xiaolin, said, "Most of us had no choice but to stay because we had internships starting soon. However, after staying for a while, several students experienced health issues, including fevers, rashes, allergies, and headaches. Despite student complaints, the school responded by distributing feedback surveys. In the end, the answer was, there's no solution right now. Students will have to deal with it themselves. Clearly, the school is avoiding responsibility, as the dorms provided are non-compliant and do not meet standards." In April, it was also reported that Nanchang Hong Kong University planned to spend 140 million yuan to build dorms for international students, sparking outrage among local students. Many students are protesting because of the poor conditions in their dorms. Right now, undergraduates are living in bunk beds, and their dorms are dirty and crammed. There isn't even enough space to place a computer. Every year, students complain about this, but the school always says they don't have enough money to fix it. Now, they have the funds, but are spending it on renovating the already luxurious single dorms for international students instead of improving the local students' living conditions. Previously, when Nanchang Hong Kong University applied to build new graduate dorms, the total area for 5 dorm buildings was only about 42,000 square meters. But the new international student dorm is 36,600 square meters for just one building. That's bigger than 3 graduate dorm buildings combined. Not only that, the cost to build 3 regular graduate dorms was just 100 million yuan. Meanwhile, this one international student dorm cost 140 million yuan. A commentator from Shandong said something similar happened at Shandong University, where the school focused too much on foreign students. The Chinese government tells its people not to worship foreign things and to have national pride. But in universities, the worship of foreigners is very common. Recently, a very talented child couldn't attend school because his family was poor. If schools had money to help their own poor students, it would be much better. But now they're giving an African student several thousand or even tens of thousands of yuan a month to live, drink, and gamble. It's completely unfair to Chinese children. This is why China can't produce world-class scientists. Our limited resources are being spent on foreign students. Chinese students face more than just poor dormitory conditions. they also have to deal with simple, inadequate school facilities during extreme weather. Recently, many provinces and cities in southern China experienced extreme heat, with some areas reaching temperatures as high as 43 degrees Celsius. On September 2nd, the second day of school, Sichuan and Chongqing, areas known for their intense heat, also hit record highs. In Sichuan and Chongqing, 44 weather stations recorded temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. Chongqing itself reached 43 degrees Celsius. On the same day, a video surfaced showing children in a classroom at Chengdu high-tech school. Each child only had a fan to cool off, and some were so overheated they lay on their desks. Only after large ice blocks were placed in plastic tubs near the seats were the students able to settle down and focus on their lessons. The teacher who recorded the video said, "This extreme heat is unbearable even for adults, let alone for the kids." Parents in Chengdu also took to social media, saying that the high classroom temperatures were making some children feel sick. Concerned about heat stroke, many parents called the local complaint hotline. In response, the Chengdu Qingyang District Education Bureau announced that classes would be suspended until Wednesday. If the heat wave continued, they would take further actions. Several cities along the Yangtze River also faced extreme heat, making it impossible for schools to hold regular classes after the start of the school year. Local media reported that in Changsha, Hunan Province, many elementary school students complained about feeling dizzy and nauseous due to the heat. On September 3rd, parents were seen rushing to buy ice blocks and bring them to classrooms to help cool them down. Schools in cities across Hunan, Anhui, Jiangxi, Sichuan, and Chongqing have since suspended classes or delayed the start of the school year. These incidents sparked outrage on social media. Many ask why Chinese schools still don't have air conditioning in 2024. The Education Department in Kaifu District of Chongsha responded, saying that policies, electricity constraints, and funding issues make it difficult to install air conditioners in all schools. A staff member from a school in Changsha added, "Whether to install air conditioning requires careful consideration from the Education Department. Not installing air conditioners helps build students' resilience." However, just recently, a vocational school student in Shandong passed away from a heat stroke during military training. The government and the Education Department haven't provided a clear explanation for this incident, yet they continue to use the excuse of building resilience to dismiss parents' concerns. It's not hard to understand, though. When the basic living conditions in dorms haven't been addressed, how can the government even think about solving the air conditioning problem? This response led to widespread criticism. Many commentators sarcastically suggested that government officials should also work in offices without air conditioning to set an example and promote the spirit of endurance and frugality. One user commented, "What do they mean there's a lack of funds? Take the air conditioners from government offices and install them in schools. The party should endure hardships for the people too. Public restrooms and other image promotion projects have air conditioning, but schools don't. All the leaders' offices have air conditioning, but classrooms don't. The issue isn't a lack of money. It's that the money isn't being spent on the students. It's easy not to care when it's not your own children." Despite these hardships, the students sitting in classrooms without air conditioning are still considered lucky. Many children in China don't even have access to education in the 21st century. For example, a video from September 1st, 2024 shows hundreds of villagers in the town in Yunnan kneeling before the police to protest the closure of Wenyu Middle School. They feared that if the school was shut down, the children in their remote mountain village would have to travel long distances to attend school, effectively denying them an education. Urban students also face challenges. On September 1st, homeowners from Yuhua City in Guangzhou, Henan, complained that they had bought properties in a designated school district, only to find out that the promised school hadn't been built in time for the new academic year. This left their children without a school to attend. The video shows desperate homeowners kneeling and pleading with the developer. Despite their efforts, these citizens' pleas have not led to any real change, as the government seems unwilling to sacrifice the party's interests for the well-being of its people. Where have the CCP's interests gone? Aside from corrupt officials taking the money overseas, the CCP has also been pursuing lavish spending policies in other countries. At a time when the domestic situation is so bleak, Chinese President Xi Jinping signed the Beijing Declaration with 53 African countries. He announced that China would unilaterally expand market access. The plan includes offering 100% tariff-free treatment for products from 33 African countries and other least developed nations with diplomatic ties to China. China also pleaded 360 billion yuan in financial support. Meanwhile, Chinese citizens still pay taxes on domestic products, but foreign buyers get tax-free treatment on Chinese goods. This isn't the first time China has followed this approach. In 2018, at the Beijing summit, Xi Jinping pleaded $60 billion in support for Africa through government aid, financing, and corporate investments. In 2021, at a forum in Dakar, China promised to purchase $300 billion worth of African products. Since the Belt and Road Initiative began in 2014, the Chinese government has provided $40 billion to fund infrastructure, development, and industrial cooperation projects in Belt and Road countries. In 2017, Xi Jinping announced another 100 billion yuan for the fund. On October 2023, China had reportedly invested nearly $1 trillion in the Belt and Road Initiative. Money that should have been used for the Chinese people has instead been funneled into other countries. On one hand, there are students and teachers suffering in the heat, elderly citizens without pensions, and unemployment graduates starving at home. On the other hand, the CCP continues its lavish spending abroad. As Lai Rongwei, executive director of the Taiwan Inspirational Association, said, "The policies set by China's dictators are never truly aimed at improving the lives of the Chinese people. They are politically motivated. No matter how bad the social and economic situation becomes, it's not a priority for them. If the government doesn't care about students' living conditions, it's hard to imagine they will care about education or dormitory improvements either.